what are the top three things that are most important to you about getting your home sold? And I write those things down. That's going to help me focus in as I go through my presentation on the things that are most important.
Agent Power Huddle is a daily jumpstart, giving you all the tools you need to create an amazing real estate career. Led by top experts in the field, you'll learn how to sell more houses in less time while creating the life you want. Welcome to the Agent Power Huddle.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me. This is not only the Agent Power Huddle, but this is also step 2 in a series of listing presentations. So I'm going to dive right in because my listing presentation normally takes me about 90 minutes. So I want to make sure that I don't keep you here that long. So I'm just going to get rolling here. So let me share my screen. All right. So who would be interested in getting 7% on a listing agreement signed? Hopefully that is of value, and especially in a market where there's downward compression on commissions. This is one way at least, and I'll be happy to share it, but it's at the end, so consider that your hook. What we're going to cover today is just real quickly, if you want to shoot a picture of the screen or jot these things down, you can. These are additional videos that you'll hear me reference as I'm going through this. In fact, let me show you real quickly. The best way to find this stuff is if you go to my YouTube channel, just search Ed Laine Realtor or Ed Laine EXP and you'll find me. If you scroll down and go to the agent training playlist, click on full playlist, and then just hit Control F and search for something in the title. So like the Color Pictures CMA Tour is a really popular one. Whatever it is you're looking for, just, whether it's buyers, sellers, listings, whatever, right? But let's dive in as people are knocking to join us. So this is the listing presentation. I'm going to just briefly tell you there's a lot more that goes into preparing for this meeting, but it all kicks off when you ring the doorbell. They answer the door and you say, "Are you ready to get your home sold?" That's like an endorphin rush for me because that is what puts me in state, because I do that every single time. Once I get into the house, I set my laptop bag down next to the kitchen table. I'm actually very cognizant of the gender dynamics. So I'm going to put it next to a chair where I'm not likely to be sitting next to the wife if it's a husband and wife and so on. Because, in many cultures that can be extremely offensive. So I'm just trying to, not stand out for the wrong reasons. And then I say, would you mind giving me a tour of the home? We get a tour of the home. My goal of that tour is to bond, build rapport, and also notice things that are interesting about them that I might be able to relate to, like if they have children or youth sports or travel to parts of the world maybe I've been to as well, or maybe I haven't. I just am fascinated. Oh, it looks like you took a trip, whatever. Because the more I show an interest in them, the more they are going to like me. That's the bottom line. It's just basic psychology, right? So if I show an interest in them, they will warm up to me and like me more. We finish the tour. I go to the kitchen table. I pull out my laptop and I actually ask them 3 questions before I dive into my listing presentation. I say, what are the top 3 things that are most important to you about getting your home sold? And I write those things down, right? And that's going to help me focus in as I go through my presentation on the things that are most important. So examples would be, we just want the most amount of money, or we want it fast, or whatever, right? So I'm taking those notes. Second question, what are the top 3 things you need to do in order to get your home ready for sale? That's going to give me a list of their to-dos. And one of the things I said when I scheduled this listing presentation is, hey, I'm going to come and tell you what to do to get your home ready, but also what not to do. So I want to hear if they think they need to do a bunch of stuff that wouldn't have an impact, right? And then third is, what do you expect from the real estate community at large? And most of the time, people don't understand that question. You guys might not either. But here's what it does. it causes them to tell me about any negative experience they had previously. Because when I ask it, they'll say, I expect goddamn realtors to lock the door when they leave or not let my cat out or, whatever. So a lot of times they say, just bring me a big fat offer, right? And if that's the case, then I know they probably haven't had any significantly negative experiences. So that's a good thing. Then I crack my laptop and I say, I'm going to show you my marketing system. And in this amount of time, Control L just switched my computer into full screen mode. And in that amount of time, I've just shown them without saying anything that I'm tech savvy, because 90% of people you talk to don't know how to use a keyboard shortcut to launch a presentation. So whether you're using PowerPoint or Adobe, this happens to be Adobe, figure out what the full screen shortcut is and do it, because you will drive an impression in your audience by being effective with technology. And most people get that real estate is a lot about technology these days, right? So into the presentation I go. The rest of the way today is going to be basically me doing a role play with you guys. You're my seller, all right? So first thing we're going to talk about is that we work in, or I work in, an industry that kind of has a habit of just doing what we've always done. Well, that's just the way we've always done it. Well, that's stupid and naive. And I say it like that, right? Because the internet completely changed the entire landscape of real estate, and now AI is doing it again. So to do it the old way is not wise. So the first thing I wanted to do is I analyze what are the reasons that people don't use the agents that they started from, right? I can't help but notice that I didn't sell you this house, yet here I am talking to you, right? That helps drive home that point. I'm just going to focus on the top three: poor communication, a long drawn out contract, and basically over-promising and under-delivering, right? The long drawn out contract is the easiest one for me to address because I'm going to give you today a cancellation agreement. And one thing you might not realize, ma'am or sir, is that the MLS forms don't have termination language for the seller. So you can't fire your agent unless they let you out of the agreement. Well, I think that's wrong. I think I work for you. You should be able to fire me anytime you want, right? So I give you this cancellation agreement so that you know every day I'm going to be working and striving to earn and keep your business. Does that make sense? They say, yeah, right? Another thing you might not realize is that realtors are independent contractors. So even though Susie might have Century 21 on her business card, it's just Susie. You're not hiring the company, right? But what we've done is we've created an assembly line, and I can't help but notice, you sir are a doctor, or you ma'am are a whatever. I'll associate the assembly line setup that they have in their industry. Because the fact of the matter is every industry has it except real estate, right? So I say, well, you don't take appointments in your dentist's office, right? And you don't schedule them, and you don't do the teeth cleaning, but you are the dentist. And so you have created an assembly line in your office there. We've done the same thing. So I have a team of people that help me execute on this, which does a couple of things. Because as you know, in an assembly line, a person that does a repetitive task will not only get faster at it, but they will get better at it. And so what ends up happening is you have a higher quality and a higher quantity of that work. And so the other benefit to you is when I'm in a meeting like this, if my phone were to ring right now, I wouldn't be so rude as to answer it in front of you, right? But you've got 5 other people that you can call at the same time and find out, hey, I saw we had a showing today. How did it go? Or whatever question you might have. Does that make sense? You'll notice I say, does that make sense? And does that sound fair? Repeatedly, because people don't want to come across as being dumb. So they'll say, yes, that makes sense. And they don't want to come across as being unfair or unreasonable either, right? So there are a lot of tasks that we're going to cover. I don't spend a lot of time on this slide because this slide is more impactful. And that is, hey, these are the things that we do in the first 72 hours before the house goes live. So this is leading up to the listing going live on the MLS. And that's because you only get one chance to make a first impression. So we're going to make sure everything is perfect and ready for launch. And and then we're going to hit the go live button. Now let's talk about the top 3 things that are most important: pricing, presentation, and marketing. Pricing is first because pricing is 90% of any marketing strategy. And the reason is we all have the MLS in our pocket, right? Well, the first question you get asked when you go to Redfin or Zillow's app is, what price point do you want to start? What's your min and your max, right? So I tell them how we're going to be strategic about that, and I'll give you some extra advice as we go here. This slide is really just to show that we're going to emphasize the strengths and de-emphasize the weaknesses. And those are things that we can't control, but we can control the amount of spotlight we put on them, right? Now, here's a really important one for people that are thinking about going on a fishing expedition. Have you ever heard the argument, well, if I want to get X, I'd better list at X plus something so that I have room to come down? Here's the problem with that. And you got to remember, I'm in the kitchen, so I can point to the screen, right? But let's say your house is listed at market value. You're going to have 60% of the eyeballs in the market on your asset. But if we just raise it 10%, look at what happens. You cut the visibility literally in half. So we don't want to do that, right? We want to try and find that highest price point that we can achieve while still not minimizing the eyeballs that see it. Because if fewer people see it, it's going to sell for less money and take longer to sell. So we don't want to do that. Have you ever heard of the term price bracketing? And 90% of realtors don't even know about this. So no sellers know about it. And usually, you've already, because you were bonding with them, you've already got a conversation going about where they're moving to, right? So you can bring that into the presentation at this point and say, I know you're already looking at that house in Florida or looking for that house in Florida so you can be near your grandchildren. Have you noticed that the prices of those homes end in 900, 950, 999, or 888 because they're trying to manipulate the Chinese buyer? Have you noticed that? And they always say, oh yeah, all of them. That's your first bit of evidence that those realtors do not know how to price real estate on the internet. Because here's the problem. Let's say your house is, and I pause because I'm going to pick a number that is clearly not their home's value, right? So if I'm in a house that I think is worth $800,000, I'm going to say, let's say your house was worth $400,000. Or if I'm in a house that's worth $400,000, I'm going to say, let's say your house was worth $1 million, right? If I price it for $999,999, I think I'm tricking the market to thinking it's not $1 million house, right? But here's the problem it creates. The guy who's searching from 800,000 to 900,000, or I'm sorry, 900,000 to $1 million would see it, right? But the guy who's searching from $1 million to $1.1 million would not see it. And I use my hands the way I'm showing you in the little screen, because when I say, but if they raise that price by just $1, right? Now my hands are over here. The guy who's looking from 900 to $1 million and the guy who's looking from $1 million to $1.1 million, they both see it. And I just doubled the number of eyeballs that see your house on the internet just by raising the price $1 or $50 if it's $999, $950, whatever it is, right? So if you look at my listings, you're going to see all of my list prices end in zeros. Another way to think about it is if your house, let's say we did a CMA and your house was worth $1,010,000, we should list it for $1 million. Just as much as if it were worth $990, we should list it for $1 million. Does that make sense? And they go, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I've never seen anybody do that, right? I also want to caution you about broker traps. So broker trap number one, that's the agent that doesn't really know how to value your property. He just comes in and says, what do you think you want for your home? And then says, okie dokie, when you say whatever number you say. Here's the problem with that. Number one, you're going to think it's a negotiation. So if you were hoping to get $1 million and the agent says, what do you think it's worth? You're probably going to say something north of $1 million. Let's say $1.1 million, right? And then the agent says, okie dokie. Well, now you're listing at $1.1 million. That is too high. And you were thinking, well, I figured it was $1 million, but now I've got a realtor telling me it's worth $1.1 million. He must know more than I do, therefore, blah, 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 right? But no, it's overpriced. And what happens to homes that are overpriced? They languish on the market, right? The days on market get elongated, and then the buyers start offering less and less. And you get offended because they're lowballing you, and you say no, but now your marketing time is lengthening, right? And then you get into this really terrible race to the bottom because you now have to do price reductions, and you're not going to trigger a sale until your price reduction gets below wherever they're lowballing, right? So it's a slippery slope that you don't want to do, and it's all because that realtor doesn't know how to value real estate. Broker trap number 2, that's the guy or gal that does know how to value real estate, but he's hoping you don't. And he does an artificially low number, right? And in the moment you're grieving, like your brain goes through a grieving process and says, oh crap, I guess it's only worth 900,000, right? But he puts it on the market. What happens? Sells like that. A smoke and deal doesn't require any marketing, but you just lost $100,000 because he convinced you to list it low, right? And then broker trap number 3, that's just the discount broker. That's the company that wants you to think you can get full service for 1%. You can't. They don't have the money to provide the level of service, and they end up selling your house for less. Here's the best way to think about it. Let's say you had some money and you were deciding you wanted to hire somebody to negotiate for you. Are you going to hire the guy who literally gave up 67% of his own money to get hired and then offer to negotiate your money for you? No, it makes no sense, right? So that's a terrible idea, but in the end, the proof will be in the pudding. So, all right, what we've created for our system, our model, is the right price promise, because we want to make sure that we get it right, right? Your home has a market value. It's not a range, right? Most of the agents you've spoken to probably said, yeah, it's between X and Y. All that is evidence that they don't know how to value real estate. I'm going to tell you 3 numbers today, the first of which is the market value. And your home has a value. It's a single number. It's not a range. And I'm going to tell you to the dollar what it is. The second number I'm going to tell you is what's the appropriate list price, because the list price and the market value are rarely the same number, right? And that's because we're trying to pick a list price that will drive the highest third number, which is what does it ultimately sell for. So my job is to tell you what it's worth, what it should be listed for, and how much it's going to sell for. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right? Let's talk about presentation. Presentation matters, right? We mentioned first impressions at the beginning. Well, we're going to give you a guide that helps you get your home ready for sale. I've also toured it, so I'm going to give you a property presentation report specific to your home. And I'm a certified stager, so I can give you advice on what to do to make your rooms more feng shui and which pieces of furniture to remove. But we're going to guide you through that process so that we can make the photos pop. Does that make sense? This is also a checklist that I'll give you. You can use this every time you leave the home. Should you turn the lights on? Should you cook, chocolate chip cookies in the oven and make this thing smell nice, etc. Right? Photos matter. We're going to get to that. We've all seen those, like you've been looking in Florida. Have you noticed there's some photos where the guy didn't even get out of his car? I mean, it's really pathetic, but we'll talk about how to solve that. Here's why it's so important. All of those photos end up being piped through our marketing system, right? And we are going to syndicate the listing and push it out to millions of websites. We want it to pop and look its best when it gets there. And photos are a big part of how we do that. Here's the scary thing. 85% of agents shoot their own photos. Only 15% hire professional photographers. 100% of my listings have professional photography. Because even though you saw me today, I shot probably 70 photos in your home. Not one of those photos is going to see the light of day on the internet. That's not the quality we want, right? So I shoot thousands of photos every year, but I'm still not as good as my professional photographer. Plus, he's the Photoshop master, right? So he'll make your lawn green, etc. Your sky's blue, all that good stuff. This slide is really just poking fun at the average agent, right? The average agent has one website. It's limitedreach.com is a joke, right? But they don't understand internet marketing. What we do is we specialize in what's called direct response marketing. So that means we tailor a message to an audience that is specific to them and increases the likelihood of them raising their hands and identifying themselves. That's direct response marketing. But SusieCentury21.com, she has a mixed message because she has to appeal to both buyers and sellers. And a confused consumer never buys. So we solve that by using multiple websites. I have hundreds of landing pages. We're going to have a specific landing page for your home specifically, and it's not just edlaine.com. Does that make sense? Yeah, great, right? We also bring a strategy to that marketing where we use branded and unbranded, or here in Washington, we have to say less branded because you can't not have your firm name on a website. But what we do is we take the firm name and we make it really, really small because the law doesn't say how big or how many DPI the font size needs to be. So we make it really small. We put it way at the bottom. Now, why do we do that? Well, some consumers are drawn to big brand companies. Others are repulsed by them. So they want nothing to do with it, right? We even own a website called freenwrealty.org. What does .org mean to you? And I ask them while I'm sitting with them, right? What does .org mean to you? And they go, organization, or I go, yeah, or nonprofit, right? A lot of .orgs are nonprofits. Here's what happens. The consumer in their brain, .org has more credibility. It's more trustworthy. So they are drawn to that website. You know what? I don't care which website they go to. I'm going to make sure your house is there. So when they get there, they see your house, right? We're going to take a no stone unturned approach to helping you get your home sold, right? And that's how we do that on the internet. We also use countdown timers. I don't know if you've ever read Cialdini's book on sales, but scarcity is one of the drivers for purchasing. So we use a countdown timer because it works. Here in Washington, we can't count down to a listing going live, but we can count down to a review date or an open house or something like that. And it just triggers this emotion in the audience because of scarcity, and it works. So we do it, right? We're one of the few firms in our marketplace that has a full-time social media person promoting your property on our social media accounts. She even posts your house on Craigslist. And I kind of make a joke about Craigslist. Can you believe that buyers go on Craigslist to look for houses? Yeah, me neither. I'd think of it for like buying a hose or a lawnmower, but we generate hundreds of leads every month by posting listings of houses. So it works, right? Again, no stone unturned. This is just a visual to show you that all of our marketing activities drives more activity or eyeballs onto our listings. This is just an example of our for sale sign. One thing you'll notice, two things you'll notice. One, it's oversized. Our signs are 24 by 36, and that's not by accident. The average agent sign is 24 by 24 or 24 by 18 and really small. Ours are giant, and they are eye-catching. You'll also notice that my name is nowhere on my signs. And that's because I'm not trying to promote myself. I'm promoting your house, right? And do you see the text to phone feature down here? Right? That's so that they can get instant information and photos of your house. So while they're standing at the curb, they're going to text that number to that number, and they're going to receive 3 text messages back. The first one says the address, the bedroom bath count, the price, the square footage. The second one is a link to photos so they can see the inside of your house while they're standing at the curb. And then the third one is an invitation to schedule a private showing. They get all that information while they're standing at the sidewalk in front of your house. Guess what we get? And about half the time they go, their phone number? And I go, exactly. Guess what we do with it? You call them? Exactly. So we call while they're still standing in front of your house. Because MIT did a study. The study was, how fast do you have to respond to leads in order to increase your opportunity to convert that lead to a customer? And what they found was the answer was 5 minutes. And they went on to say that if you followed up with leads in just 30 minutes, you were 21 times less likely to convert that lead to a customer. So guess what we do? We call all leads within 5 minutes. And my inside sales team knows that they're going to get fired if they go beyond 5 minutes. It's a system, right? And that's what allows us to go, oh, are you talking about the house with the red door? And they're like, yeah, I'm standing right in front of it. That's great. Are you thinking about making a move in the next little while? And then we segue into a series of 6 questions that results in a booked appointment over 30% of the time. So it's all systemized, and it starts with not putting my name on the sign. Let's talk about some unique selling propositions that we offer. We have a ton of them. I'm just going to dive into a few of them. And the first one is our Sell for Free program. Now you guys are realtors, so you're probably going, how the hell do you sell a house for free, right? Stay tuned, right? But here's how it works. We are going to take your home and we're going to put a sign rider on it that says, buy this home, I'll sell yours for free. I thought that yellow one had that, but anyway, right? So we have a sign rider that says, buy this home, we'll sell yours for free. That tells 80% of the buyers that come by who have a home to sell that they should look at your house because they're going to be able to get their home sold for free. Now, how do we do that? It's easy, right? I'm going to double end. I don't say this to the consumer. I'm saying it to you realtors on this video. I'm going to double end the house I'm standing in, right? That allows me to sell their house for free, meaning no listing commission. They're still going to offer a selling or a buyer's broker commission. Does that make sense? And in 90% of these conversations, that person is a move up buyer anyway. So 2 commissions on the house I'm standing in is greater than 1 commission on this house and a listing commission on the house they're selling, right? So that's how I would structure it. But back into the role play, I go, we put that on the sign so that they stop and look at your house. If they fall in love with your house, here's what this does for you. Not only does it open your home to more buyers, but it puts me in their home, right? So when I'm looking at their house to help them put together this offer, I can tell you if they're well qualified. I can tell you if they're going to price their home aggressively to be sold, or are they going to be, stupid? So I don't say stupid to the prospect I'm sitting in front of, but I say, I can tell you if they're going to be not aggressive enough that it would be wise for you to hitch your wagon to them. And I'll tell you, let's not accept this offer, even though I'm the one that wrote it up, right? Because it gives you the intel about their motivation. It has me being the one that writes the offer up, and it allows you to make a decision based on more than just the offer amount. Does that make sense? And they go, yeah, right? Sometimes they go, will you sell my house for free? And I tell them, I'll cover that at the end if that's something you're interested in. Right? This is Curbio. So if you're with EXP, we have a Curbio. We call it our moving concierge program. What that means is we can remodel your home with our money, and then you keep the profit. The photos on the screen are of a house I did it's in the same town I live in. And we did a $277,000 remodel on that house and sold it for $425,000 more than it would have sold as is. So for those of you watching this video, if I'm in the home and I can tell that it's dialed, it doesn't need any of my rehab services, I just tell them, this program isn't for you. Your house is beautiful, right? But if I'm in their home and I go, you could probably benefit from this product or program. Let's figure that out. Once you hire me, you can decide if that's something you want to do. Here's the beautiful thing about these programs is you can get the final numbers before your client ever has to decide which approach they want to take, right? But get them to hire you before you start giving them those numbers, right? You can sign a listing agreement and still pivot to Curbio or express offers or just a traditional sale. Anyway, I digress. Option seller dilemma number 2 is speed, and they want to get money fast and they don't want to have to do anything to get it, right? This is express offers. So again, if you're with EXP, we have a marketplace of hedge funds that we will get to bid against each other. And that could be the best solution for the seller that you're sitting with, right? So that's how I say it. I obviously don't say the word EXP, but I say, so seller dilemma number 2 is when speed matters and convenience matters almost more than the amount of money matters, right? We have a marketplace of hedge funds that we can get your property in front of and get them to bid against each other and see if they will provide enough money to make it worth your while. Now, I'll be upfront with you. This tends to be the lowest number of these options that we're talking about. But if the convenience and the speed is worth whatever small discount to the final sales price is, you might still want to do that, right? So it's up to you to decide, but we can find out what the number is without any, decision up front, right? So let me know. We also have a buyers in waiting program. We have over 20,000 buyers. This is why we are able to sell homes faster, because we can take your home and push it in front of the audience of buyers that have said, I want to be in this neighborhood in Seattle and I want to be in this price point. And we can proactively approach those buyers because we've already cultivated them. Our inside sales team has converted them to a customer, and now they're waiting to find the right house. And it might be yours, right? We also can use the buyer match program to market to neighborhoods around your house. So if I'm in a home, sorry, I keep coming in and out of role play, but I'll stay with the role play. Let's say that there are neighborhoods around this house that this house would be a move up house for. Wouldn't it make sense for me to hammer all those neighborhoods with direct mail that says, buy this home, I'll sell yours for free, right? I can use that same program to get those people to raise their hand that have always wanted to live here and they're in the neighboring neighborhood or they're within a certain radius. So we can use that buyer match program to try and drive more traffic through your house. Does that make sense? I go, yeah. This is an image of my inside sales team. I already told you about the MIT study, but these are the people that will respond to leads within 5 minutes. And I hired enough of them so that we get 7-day-a-week coverage and we can respond to leads within 5 minutes, whether it's Sunday at 2 in the afternoon or Wednesday at 9 o'clock at night. Doesn't matter, right? We don't have overnight coverage, but that works actually. If any of you are generating leads at 2 a.m., if you're awake, call them because they're awake too. Brochures. So I mentioned the signs earlier. We do not put flyer boxes on the signs because we want them to use that text to phone functionality. We don't want to put a flyer out there, but we will put a flyer inside the house because if they go to the trouble to ask their realtor or call us to schedule a viewing inside, I want them to be able to grab a flyer so they can remember the house after they leave, right? We also have a luxury program. Again, I'm thinking of the house I'm sitting in and I'll say, this isn't for you in a kind and gentle way, or I'll say that your home is perfect for this, right? But our luxury system allows me to get your home onto the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Robb Report, Mansions Global, and try and find buyers who might be relocating to Seattle. Does that make sense? They go, yeah. We also have an international buyer system. So we are members of multiple international MLSs, and we will leave no stone unturned in our effort to find you the right buyer. And sometimes if I get the sense when I'm meeting with somebody that they're a bit of a racist, which you'll pick up on stuff like that, right? I'll go, and just so we're on the same page, you don't care the race or color of the buyer, right? And they go, well, I kind of want to preserve the neighborhood. Some bullshit answer. I'll go, well, I'm probably not the guy for you then. Like I'll get up and leave if I can't change their mind. But in the majority of cases, I'll go, well, what if a Chinese buyer is the one that's going to pay the most? Isn't that what's most important? And they'll go, yeah, I guess you're right. Right. So bit of an aside, doesn't come up very often, but when it does, I nip it in the bud right there. I'll ask them, have you ever heard of a reverse offer? And they'll go, no, what is that? Well, that's where we, the seller, write an offer to the buyer. And they'll say, can you do that? Yeah, you can. Most realtors don't know that you can, but you can. And I've done it 40 times, and I've closed 12 deals that way. So again, this is another no stone unturned kind of thing, but let me give you an example. Let's say you come home one day and there's a business card on your kitchen counter, and you call me and say, what did they think? And I go, well, I've sent them 3 emails and I've left 2 voicemails, but I haven't talked to them yet, but I'm going to keep trying. And then the next day, a second business card from the same person shows up, and you call and you go, okay, this is getting ridiculous. Now they've come back. And I go, yeah, and actually I did get a hold of them. They really, really liked it. They wanted to see it twice, but they've just started searching. So they can't believe that they found the one so early in the process. So they want to keep looking. But I would suggest we write them a reverse offer, because if it really is the one, we should try and push that forward, right? And writing a reverse offer accomplishes really 3 things. Number 1, it gives them a tangible decision to make, because real estate is a lot about compromise, right? Most people start the process looking for 12 features and they never find a house that has all 12, but they find houses that have 9 or 10, and they're deciding, is that one going to work for us, right? Well, we put a tangible decision in front of them. We also put an expiration date on it. So it forces them to process this and think about it. Is this house acceptable? And then the third and the best thing is, we're the ones that initiated the negotiations, right? So we can start the numbers where we're comfortable and try and drag them up. Now, I've done this, like I said, 40 times, and I always try and put a sweetener in it. So let's say in that conversation, the agent said they really, really liked it, but they didn't like your blinds. Great. Write a reverse offer and include a credit for $2,500 for new blinds. Whatever it needs to be, right? And I'll tell you one specific example. I wrote a reverse offer. I sent it to this agent. I called her and I said, hey, I have an offer for you. And she said, what are you talking about? I don't have any listings. And I said, I'm going to stop sharing so I can look at you guys. She said, I don't have any listings. And I said, no, my seller wrote an offer to your buyer. And she goes, can you do that? I go, yeah, there's no law that says the buyer has to be the one to initiate the negotiation. And she's like, I don't think you can do that. And I go, well, I'm not here to educate you on what the law requires, but I will tell you this. You're either going to put that in front of your client, or I'm going to call your designated broker, which is what we call the broker of record here in Washington. I'm going to call your DB, and he's going to put it in front of your client. So it's up to you. She was pissed. She put it in front of her client. Her client loved it. Her client wanted to accept the offer, but she wouldn't let them accept the offer without first rewriting the offer. And here's the funniest part. When we wrote the offer, I told my client, hey, I'd like to try and put a sweetener in there as an incentive for them to really consider your offer. But they didn't give us any feedback on things they didn't like. And he goes, well, could we add more commission for the agent? And I said, yeah, that's a great idea. He goes, how about like $2,500? I go, that's brilliant. So we wrote the reverse offer with a $2,500 commission bonus to the buyer's agent. When she rewrote the offer, she left out one term. Can you guess which one? So her arrogance and ignorance cost her $2,500. The deal closed, so she got paid, but because she couldn't wrap her brain around how a seller could initiate a negotiation. And I'm like, just because you never heard of it doesn't mean that it's complicated, right? We're not splitting the atom here. All right, let me get back over here. All right, so reverse offer, I've talked about it enough. We train a lot on my team. You know, the average realtor gets 15 hours a year. So whatever your state is, take the numbers. Like we have 30 hours every 2 years. That's how I got 15 per year. So figure out what yours is. And we train over 100 hours a year, right? So do the math, and you can take the 80 hours a week that EXP does. You can do whatever you want, but reinforce the fact that you're watching this video or you're in this class right now means that you invest in yourself in training. So brag about that, right? That communicates to your audience that you are a pro and you are always striving to sharpen your saw, right? You saw in the beginning the top 3 things. One of them was poor communication. We're going to solve that by using technology. We have a showing feedback system. So the beautiful part about the feedback system is that you get unfiltered feedback. So if we had like 5 showings and I talked to them all and I came back to you and I said, yeah, none of them liked it enough to write an offer. Well, that's not feedback. I would never do that, by the way, but that's not actionable feedback. But if they all get an email and then they respond honestly, your house smelled like cat or whatever, that is actionable, right? So you're going to get unfiltered feedback, and then we will talk about the feedback and determine, is there anything we can do about it? Or was it just not the right floor plan or flow or whatever, right? You're also going to get weekly updates. You're going to know inside and out what is happening in the market, what's available in the market, because that's helping drive and determine what our list price strategy should be. But then after we're on the market, you need to stay updated. So I'm going to have a weekly conversation with you about what's coming on the market, what's going into escrow, etc., so that you can stay on top of it, because some of those changes over time could affect us and might influence us to make an adjustment, right? Our goal is to get 5-star reviews. So if I'm ever doing anything that you're not happy about, please let me know, because there's a very good chance that I just don't realize it, and I promise to fix it. Here are the results. The average agent sells 3.94 homes a year. I've averaged over 100 homes a year for the last 10 years. That isn't braggadocio, that is the fact. And the facts allow me to do more to get your home sold. Does that make sense? Right? A guy or gal that only sells 3.94 homes a year can't afford to have all these systems and resources, right? Here's the bottom line too. The MLS average last year was 100.4%. That's the sales price to list price ratio. So what they got as compared to how much they were asking. My personal was 103.8. So you get 3.4% more money by hiring me. And it's probably more than that, because you know what's crazy about this? I'm in this statistic right here. So 102 of the sales that made up this number actually are pushing it up. So if they pulled me out, that number would go down. Does that make sense? Yeah, right? You also notice on this slide, this means a certain amount of money. So take your median home price, whatever it is, multiply it, like find out what your stats are. And it doesn't matter if it's almost 4% or not. It matters if it's bigger. And if it isn't, then cut this slide out, right? But even if you're 1% higher, I literally have had people, when they see this slide, they go, so what you're telling me is your system pays for itself. And I go, exactly. Can I quote you on that? They're like, sure. Right? Cancellation guarantee. So I remind people again that they can fire me at any time, but please don't fire me. This is how I feed my family. If there's something, like I said a minute ago, if there's something that's irritating, let me know because I'll fix it immediately. And I probably don't know about it. This is the close slide. So I leave this up on the screen. And as you can see, it's a list of all the different things we've just talked about. And I go, so I've shown you a lot today. Was there anything that stood out to you? And they're looking at that list, right? So they'll pick a thing or two and they'll go, yeah, I really liked, the reverse offer system or whatever. A lot of people go, I can't name one thing. It's just so comprehensive. Like you cover everything. And I go, that's right. So based on what I've shown you today, am I the right guy to get your home sold? That's it. That's the closing line, right? And if they say anything other than yes, then I buckle in for objection handling, right? If they go, well, it depends on what you're going to tell me it's worth. It depends on what you're going to charge me. It depends, right? If they say yes, I go, that's great. Hold out my hand, shake their hand. I close my laptop and I go to the folder and I start filling out the listing paperwork. And you'll see if you'd watch that preparation video that I put up at the beginning, you go to your listing presentation prepared for it to go perfectly, right? So that means you do the CMA, use my color picture CMA process. I won't bore you guys today with that, but we can do a separate training if you want. It is gold in retraining a seller's brain to be more realistic on their list price. And that video is on my YouTube channel. So I encourage you to watch it. It's only, I think, 20 minutes or so. But that's, when they say, depends on what you're going to sell it for, I'll just give you these objection handlers because this will end with the 7% thing, right? It depends on what you're going to sell it for, Ed. I go, well, in the end, it's your asset. So you're the one that decides this. I'm going to give you advice and I'm going to show you data that helps you come up with the proper list price strategy like we talked about a minute ago. But in the end, the list price, what we decide to list it for is going to be based on data. But in the end, what your decision shouldn't be based on, I talked to 10 realtors and I asked them each what list price number it is and I hired the highest number. That's not professional or that's naive, right? What you want to do is hire the person with the best marketing because they'll have the best opportunity to get you the highest number. So based on who has the best marketing, am I the right guy to get your home sold? So I go right back to the same closing question, right? If they say, depends on what you're going to charge me, I go, well, I've shown you a lot today, right? And they go, yeah. I go, you get all of that, every last bit of that for just 4%. And I paused in this video because I pause in the moment because I want the endorphin rush to hit their brain. Because guess what they were hoping? They were hoping they could get all that for 4%, right? And I just said they could. So I pause, let the endorphin rush hit, and then I say, and then all we have to do is decide how much to offer to a buyer's broker. And in my professional opinion, what we should do to determine that is survey the market because you want a number that just doesn't stand out. You want a number that's not super high, that's not super low. You just blend in. You want to be like an NBA referee where nobody notices you, right? By the way, that's the perfect NBA referee. And then they go, oh, okay. And what did I just do there? I told them 4%. I let an endorphin rush happen. And then I pointed out that we're going to add to that and it's going to be 2.5 or 3, which is a total of 7, right? But I never say the word 7. Does that make sense to everybody? Now, could you do that and just use it to get 3%? Absolutely. The endorphin rush is even bigger when you say you get all that for just 3%. The key is stay your side only number and then pause long enough for them to let the endorphins release in their brain, which is a euphoric hormone, right? And then follow up with, then all we have to do is decide how much to offer to a buyer's agent. Does that make sense? Now, I have in my briefcase the folder and I have my color picture CMA paperwork, which you'll see in the other video, but they're both pretty thick, right? So then I'm just going to the folder and signing them up. And if at this point, like we did all this in 49 minutes, thank you guys for staying with me. I know it's supposed to be 30. If we get all the way through and we're 90 minutes deep now, plus the tour at the beginning and all that stuff, if they're exhausted, I've had hundreds of sellers sign blank paperwork because they're comfortable and trust me at that point, even if I just met them for the first time, right? So I will fill in the commissions so they aren't signing a blank listing agreement with no commissions filled in. That would be an MLS violation and probably a DOL violation. But we go ahead and save them some time. And I'll just say, if you're comfortable with it, we can, like, the seller disclosure is lengthy. It's going to take us 40 minutes to fill that out. If you want to sign it blank, I can call you tomorrow and we can go through those questions together over the phone, right? And they go, I would really appreciate that. So I'm going to stop there and see if anybody has any questions. All right. Well, I appreciate all of you bearing with me. I hope it was worth your while. Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate it. And
I have a question.
Yeah, Kelly, go for it.
So I recently did an open house for another agent, and I like to do comps before I go out, to have other things available for buyers when they come in. But there were absolutely zero comps. It's a custom built home kind of out in the country. I even did it. I did it many different ways. I went 20 miles out, 30 miles out within the last year, 2 years, 5 years. There was absolutely zero. So how do you price a home that doesn't have any comps?
You just rattled off a bunch of different ways that you expanded your search, but I can tell you in 37 years, I've never failed to find comps. Even if I had to go back 3 years to do a time-adjusted comps, I would do that before I would say it can't be done. So if you want, we could take some separate time from this and I could help you, but okay. It's pretty rare that I have to do that 3-year look back approach, but that is kind of your worst case scenario, is go back however many years you have to and then make an adjustment for appreciation. It's pretty inaccurate, but you won't have to do that very often. Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Have an awesome day. And feel free to reach out to me if you ever have questions or need help. That's what I do. All right. Take care.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.